Like I said, it happens, and hopefully some kids can learn from it, but just don't get caught.
I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk.
I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shai and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
Will you say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, hardly ever on a Tuesday, is my good friend, Michele Berra. Michele, what's up?
Whoa. Good friend?
Mm-hmm.
After what happened today? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure.
Our friend was on
Humiliating
the
us?
line today as you know, the U.S. completely dismantled Italy. I think they lost that game the other day on purpose so that they could have this side of the bracket, because Serbia would have been a lot tougher opponent than Italy. So it actually worked out very well for the U.S. in that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Italy made, I think, a great run in this World Cup. They played really well all the games besides this one and one in the tournament, which I don't recall the opponent, but it was like, was it Puerto Rico? Maybe.
I don't remember.
Something like
I'm like obviously mostly just locked into what the Thunder guys are doing.
Yeah, me too. I watched more Canada than Italy, which says a lot. But tonight they had to, in order to have a chance, they had to take a lot of threes and make a lot of threes. They make 18%, and they played for, I think, 12 minutes, and that was it. Like after a while, the first level of defense was just not there. It was not enough physicality, and then, I mean, they have a player who had a terrible World Cup, which is Achille Polonara, who was awful, just terrible. And when we start the game, like 5 offensive rebounds in the first 5 minutes of the game, and then, I mean, the U.S. just started to play well, to just play physical basketball, and to be honest with you, there is nobody in Italy that can keep Anthony Edwards in front of him one-on-one, nor Mikal Bridges, and when you have guys hitting threes, it's just a no-go. Again, they decided not to play and to be dismantled, which is something that can happen, especially when you feel like a little bit satisfied for what you did and just powerless against a team like the US, which, again, they should beat Italy by 37 points.
Yeah, and they did. Yeah, they were good. Bridges was really good today. Halliburton was awesome.
Yeah.
Off the bench for them. Off day for Edwards, but it didn't really matter. You know, he's 1 of 6, 3 points on the day, and it just didn't even matter. You know, like that's just the ability that the U.S. has, is that they can just pummel people with guys taking turns. You know, they don't necessarily need consistency, but you know, it's been interesting that they haven't really had a consistent scoring threat from somebody. Like it's always somebody else kind of popping off. Like Paolo had a big game, and Edwards has had a big game, and Jalen Brunson has had a big game, and Bridges had a big game today. And you know, it'll be interesting when they play. I hope that we get to see the U.S. and Canada in the finals, because the bracket is that'd be the only way that they would meet, is in the finals. And it's possible. I mean, it's certainly possible the U.S. will play the winner of Germany-Latvia. That's tomorrow.
They should demolish both of those teams.
They should. Germany has played well. You have to give them credit, but that's not the greatest team.
No, and again, you said that, I mean, it's fine to take turns for the U.S., but I felt that against Italy, they really were able to just open the box and create very good shots.
Yeah.
You have to hit them, which is something that today they did really well. On other nights, no.
Yep.
and they are prone to leave opponents open for threes. They they are prone to make a mess defensively sometimes.
Yep.
But if they are able to stick with good offensive principles, I think that they have a lot to in their arsenal. And everything can happen. I mean, Italy can go instead of 7 for 38, like 28 for 38, and this is actually a win for Italy. But I mean, you need to have something like that in order for it to be. By the way, that is true. It would be a win for Italy. But again, it's something that it doesn't happen. So if they play a normal game defensively, I think that they've shown that they can be very, very good also in creating efficient offense.
Yep. So the Lithuania lost to Serbia 87-68 this morning. They move on to the semifinals, and then Canada-Slovenia is tomorrow, which is Shai versus Luka, which is very fun. Joe Masada wrote a story about it in the Oklahoman today. You should go check it out. But it's going to be a very interesting matchup that I think it's at 7:30 Central Standard Time tomorrow. So it's one that Thunder fans can watch. Just pop up and throw some FIBA basketball on. If you are having trouble finding a way to watch it, I can hit you with a promo code, or not a promo code to get you like 10% off on this. It's called Courtside. And
1891.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you are having trouble finding a way to watch it, just hit me up on Twitter, and I will give you guys a promo code for 10% off for that. So I can't wait for it. A lot of reason I can't wait for it is just the way that Shai played against Spain, where it felt like they might be cooked.
Yeah.
With about 4 minutes left in the game, Billy Hernan-Gomez stretched the lead out to 78-71. And you just thought, man, like it's obviously not like an insurmountable lead, but in FIBA, like that amount feels a lot bigger than it does in the NBA, especially with Canada, who are just not going to hit threes, at a high level. And then Shai just took over. He was basically a part of every single possession down the stretch that ended up positively. That next possession, he assisted his cousin, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, on a three.
Yeah, that corner three was beautiful and so important. Like It was the start of, hey, they have a chance. They're down, but they have a chance.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then Shai makes a layup to make it from 74-78 to 76-78. And then Shai draws a foul, makes a free throw, 77-78. Dort actually comes in for RJ Barrett during that time to end the game, where they have Dort and Dylan Brooks out there to just kind of hound really Abrinas. And Abrinas, who was awesome, who like nearly won this game for Spain. It was kind of weird watching Abrinas versus Dort, because that's who they had on him. It was like this weird like Thunder parallel universe happening. Like those guys were never on the same team, but they were pretty close to being on the same team. And it was just kind of interesting seeing those guys out on the court together. But Shai hits Dylan Brooks.
The allure for Abrinas being an NBA player. Like,
oh my gosh, dude. Yeah. He should be an NBA player. He really should be.
That's a bummer.
It really is. It really stinks. Hernan-Gomez hits a couple free throws, 80-77. Dylan Brooks hits a big time three, again assisted by Shai, and then Shai just delivers down the stretch here. He hits a step back two, and then he gets a steal from Juan Nunez, Nunez actually fouls him, but then Shai gets a steal and then just basically just sinks free throws, ices this game. His free throws obviously they were ridiculous last year. Shot 90% from the line, but it just, every time he shot it, it looked like there was just no chance the ball was not going to go in. Every time he shot a free throw. He absolutely took this game over. He was either assisting or scoring the points every single time down the stretch, aside from a Dylan Brooks turnover. to get to like deliver this win for Canada, and still Abrinas. It was 85-88. I thought, oh my gosh, this might go to overtime because when that ball's in the air, you think
it was close.
Looks really good. It looked really good. I thought Abrinas was going to make that shot, and didn't go in at front rimmed, didn't go in, and Canada moves on, not only in the tournament round, but also qualifies for the Olympics for the first time since the year 2000, which is a really, really big deal for Canadian basketball. So big shouts to Shai and Dort, Dylan Brooks, RJ Barrett, Olynyk. All those guys have put in a ton of work to get this team where it is. And like, is that the strongest team Spain ever? Like, definitely not.
But they played well. They played feisty. They played. I want to use the word dirty, even if it's not really. It was just, hey, we need to give everything we have. And Rudy and Claver, they are the guys to play that way. I mean, Spain used to play like that, even if they had like the two Gasol brothers, and so it's amazing.
Adama was really good off the bench for them.
Yeah,
he shot the ball well. Hernan Gomez is just like a beast in FIBA.
Yeah, it was apparent that this was the first game where Olynyk really struggled for Canada. Like, it was like, we can't play him. But apart from that, I mean, Dylan Brooks had a great game. I mean, those games where say, okay, this is why some nights you need to have Dylan on your team.
Yeah.
And
plus 13, like a game high plus 13.
Yeah. It was apparent that he was changing the flow of the game when he was out there. Little Dort had a bad game offensively. Defensively, I thought it was okay, and it was good for him to be there in closing minutes. But boy, oh boy, Shai, that step back jumper on Claver was amazing.
34 boards, 7 assists, only 1 turnover, 7 of 12 from the field for 30 points. This is like classic Shai. 30 points on 12 shots, 14 of 16 from the free throw line, 2 of 3 from 3. I mean, he was the man in this one, and they needed it because they had wet the bed in the previous game, and a game that they should not have lost.
Yeah,
they did. They lost to Brazil in a really kind of embarrassing fashion. And so, similar to the U.S., they didn't bounce back quite, as high as the U.S. did, but also like Spain's a tougher team.
Yeah,
and
you can say that. I'm not mad.
Canada doesn't have as many options to go to either.
Yeah,
the U.S. does.
They really need to play well. Like everyone, like Shades, he's not enough. He can do when you have a game on the line, he can be the guy who puts it over the line. But the three from his cousin was as important as a step back three.
He only took 2 shots in that game too. It's not Alexander Walker wasn't playing a huge role, but that moment was big time.
And he was good in defense. I mean, Nikhil was very good defensively. Again, Shai, I mean, I kind of want him to be a little bit more assertive during the game, because it can be just the last 10 minutes. There were moments where, I mean, he played a ton. Like especially for long stretches, there were moments like, wait, he's playing 13, 14 consecutive minutes. That's too much.
They couldn't take him out of the game though.
Yeah,
they would have drowned. Nobody else had to play, like, carry the load that he did. 36 minutes, almost 37 minutes.
Yeah, but also like without breathers. Like there were moments where, oh boy, he's not going out. So from this point of view, you can say, okay, he has to take minutes off, possessions off. But also, like, there are moments where, why are you giving the ball at the top of the key to Lou Dort or Brooks to create?
Yeah,
this is not something that you should do. Like, you need to be the man.
Yeah.
But also you can say, okay, but he's trying to make everyone else part of it because he knows that he can't win without them. So it's a little balance. The fact that he was able to pull it out at the end and just take over the game was just sensational. I mean, it's just great to see him playing that way.
Yeah. I mean, he took as many shots as RJ did and the same amount of shots that Dylan Brooks did. Yeah,
But
probably
if you,
take more shots than those dudes.
if you take the number of possessions, like he took 21 offensive possessions, and he scored like 30 points. That is insane efficiency. Like, it's 1.42, something like that.
Yeah, it's unfair. It's unfair. So good.
Yeah.
A bit of news that doesn't really directly affect the Thunder, but maybe directly affects Michele's heart is Trey Murphy is reported that he has a torn meniscus.
Oh,
That he injured today
okay.
in practice from Woj. He said maybe it's not torn. I won't say it's torn, but this definitely indicates something not good.
Yeah.
If this info is fed to Woj, that New Orleans Pelicans guard Trey Murphy III suffered a meniscus injury to his left knee during a workout today and will undergo further testing. It is immediately unclear whether he will require surgery. So it's, here's the thing, is like there's a lot of injuries that happen during the offseason that we just never find out about.
Yeah.
Unless they're very serious.
Or they are very close to camp, and so everyone will just know because he's not playing. And I think that if it's surgical, I guess that it's 4 months at least.
Yeah, probably that, if not longer.
Yeah,
and
which is
like
after
if it is
also break.
Yeah, if it is torn, then he's young enough to where you want to repair it.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I think a lot of people know that you can remove it totally, and like he could be back by training camp probably, but also that takes away longevity from your knee overall. So I think injuries have always been something that have bit New Orleans, and it's usually Zion or it's usually BI. But to have Trey Murphy, who is going to be, and still maybe could be, a huge part of what they're going to do this season, that's a big bummer. And a really good guy, really funny guy, extremely talented. He's poised for some kind of breakout, and now he's gone. But also, that is a team that is going to be competing with the Thunder for playoff positioning.
Yeah, it's relevant for OKC. I'm not sure how many wins he's worth for the Pelicans, but he's surely a positive contributor. And if you look at some metrics, probably 3, 4, 5 wins. Maybe that is too much. Maybe 2, 3, something like that.
Well, just thinking about who his replacement is going to be, it could be a lot. They're both projected. They're both given the over-under 44.5. And who replaces him in the lineup is the question to me, more so than like his immediate value, because I think it's like a blend of both. So like who replaces him, and then what does he bring to the table? And you look at their depth chart right now, obviously a lot more is going to have to go on Brandon Ingram. Dyson Daniels is going to have to step up. Maybe Herb Jones steps up, a little bit more, but we're talking about Herb Jones like that. He and Dyson Daniels, neither of them are talented shooters or scorers, really. They're both more defensive specialists, and so they don't exactly have a replacement just for spacing wise. Because you look at everybody else and who they are across the board, they just don't have a ton of shooting on their roster that's viable from last year. Trey 40% on 6 attempts. CJ McCollum shot it well. After that, like Jose Alvarado can make threes, but he was 33% last year. Herb Jones 33%.
Yeah, and if you
31%, and
it's one thing if you replace some of the CJ minutes with Jose and you keep the minutes together at say 10. But if you need spacing and if you play 20 minutes, CJ and Jose Alvarado together, I'm not sure how sustainable your defense is. So it's interesting. Definitely Dyson Daniels will have more minutes, more development opportunities, which may turn out in the long run better for the Pelicans. But in the short term, it may be that they win a little bit less. because of that. And of course, if Zion is there, then it's mitigated. But if you start losing half a season of Trey Murphy, then 30 games of Zion, then it's start to be a bit difficult for them for sure.
Yeah, the floor spacing he provides, like the legitimate floor spacing, is going to be missed.
Yeah,
because there's not really anybody else that spaces the floor. And how do you guard Zion? Like, if you have a healthy Zion, you're still going to be in really good shape. But how do you guard Zion? Is you pack the paint.
You pack the paint, yeah.
And you send doubles. And whenever there's somebody in the corner that you absolutely cannot leave, you can't do that effectively. Yeah. And so it gives you just like a couple, just the window that you need to get that shot off. But if it's Dyson Daniels in the corner,
you take your chances.
You just let Dyson shoot it, man.
Yeah.
You let him shoot it. So, I mean, it's a big deal for them if he can't go. And we obviously don't know. This is a lot of speculation at this point. But also, like, if Woj knows something, I would be surprised if it's not a big deal. So,
yeah,
hopefully he gets well soon. But, yeah, that's a pretty big one for New Orleans if he can't go to start the season. In other news, if you didn't know, like the inside of the Paycom arena is like getting a facelift. There's new seats in the arena over the entire arena. If you've been to a game, you know that there has never been cup holders in these seats. There's some cup holders now, so it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Helpful.
And there's a brand new Jumbotron, and it's huge and it's great. And I know people are like, well, why aren't we getting a new arena? Yeah, we're getting a new arena, but this was always part of the plan, is to redo the seats and bring in a new Jumbotron. It doesn't mean anything for the future of the arena, just so that that's clear. But, you know,
is there a tentative timeline for the new arena? Like,
it hasn't been voted on yet, so there's not.
It was supposed that it gets voted on and the project is approved.
Before 2030, I believe, is the goal.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense to do a renovation if you have to still survive 5 years with this structure. So it's...
Yeah. Well, the old Jumbotron 2 there were like parts of it that were going out.
Yeah.
That were extremely visible to everybody there. It needed to happen. I'm sure that by the end of the last season, that the game ops people are just like, come on, new Jumbotron. Like, this is ridiculous. So, seats are new. Lots of newness surrounding the arena. So, pretty cool. There's a video from Peyton May at Peyton in May from Fox 25. Got a video of it. So that's on Twitter. I think I retweeted her. Yes, I did. So go check that out. Pretty sweet. And something for people that will be attending games this season. Michele, let's take a quick break. We come back. Let's talk a little bit about Josh Giddey and the Boomers' exit from FIBA. We will be right back. And we're back after that quick break. Michele, the Boomers are done with the FIBA tournament. They, pretty disappointing that they didn't make it to the knockout rounds. I think if you look like talent for talent, like they have a really good team. Mm-hmm. And really it kind of came down to the fact that like they just couldn't rebound down the stretch. They just needed like one big man, and Jacques Landale would have really helped them and like probably could have gotten them to the knockout rounds, but they did not get there. However, Josh Giddey was still awesome in this tournament and showcased quite a bit as kind of the leader of this team, even though he doesn't like necessarily profile. Like a lot of the guys that are leaders of their teams in FIBA are like these like just scorers with the ball in their hands. It's not like Josh doesn't do that. He obviously did that a lot for them, but he's somebody that if they just had like one or two shooters out there, it would have helped so much. And they just didn't. They just didn't play any shooters. next to him. They played with him with like a lot of like utility guys that are mostly defenders. And yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. And one question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel that the minutes that he played were like kind of low? Like I felt that in their last game.
Yeah, he averaged 27 minutes per game.
Which is not enough. Like starters on FIBA, like from my recollection, again, it's a couple of years that I'm not watching intensely FIBA basketball. But like in regular professional leagues, good players average more than 30.
Yeah.
Maybe 31, 32, not like 36, 37, like
Yeah.
in the NBA. And I get it, when you are in a national team, you probably don't play as much. But we just said that Shai, in a very meaningful game, played 36 minutes. And again, I'm not advocating Josh at 20 years old or 21, whatever he is, should have played 36 minutes, because I think that one of his biggest issue is, hey, he needs to have stamina to play those kind of minutes. But 32 in that game, I mean, come on, like you can play him. And I felt that whenever he was off, there was no flow of the game whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to be too critical of their coaching staff, but I also want to be pretty critical of their coaching staff. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of cohesiveness with that roster. It just felt like down the stretch, especially when it was like, oh my gosh, we need a bucket, that there was really nothing drawn up for them. And that it was really just like, all right, if this is going to work, it's going to work because you guys are going to go do it. Like, go do it. Do it. You know, it's kind of the way it seemed. And sometimes I could do it. Sometimes I couldn't do it.
Yeah, there were moments in these FIBA basketball games where I just see coaches. I watched Italy against, I don't remember which team it was. Well, and this coach, they were down, and he used the entire timeout to draw a very, very complicated scheme, which was basically a pick and roll with a pick and pop option. So nothing really, but he made it sound very, very, very difficult. Like 3 minutes, it was clear that after 5-10 seconds, all the players were check out on the explanation. They just took the ball and took the first three available. Just jacket three, which makes you feel like, okay, NBA coaches are on a very different level, like a completely different planet from these guys, from many of these guys. But yeah, I had a similar feeling for the Australia coaching staff.
Yeah. And I mean, some of it is that they don't have cohesion. You know, they don't have, a lot of time together to figure this out. And so it just kind of is what it is. But you wish that Australia could have made it through to the knockout rounds, because they certainly have the talent to do it. And I would expect in the future, with like a 23-year-old Josh Giddey, or 25-year-old Josh Giddey, that things would be quite a bit different for that team in particular. So
yeah, and I think that James Anderson in the chat has a point, that it was it was not good at all times for Josh defensively to be extremely supportive of him. There were like bad moments. And again, I mean, I think that this is part of the deal with Josh. He's very young. But when you don't have really an option to create any offense, I think that you can sustain on defense some of his miscues and like blackout moments. Yeah. The most important thing, though, is that we're talking about the guy that still led his team very well at the age of 20, like the leader of the team. And it was clear, like he was the guy, and he was the best player of Australia by far.
Yeah, he was.
And this is very important. I mean, this is exactly what I hoped. I mean, of course, you hope for him to be there instead of, I don't know, Latvia, or even if I'm always being a Bertang's guy, thanks to him, France is not there, so great. Or some other team, but they had, I would say, a pretty successful World Cup anyway, especially for Josh. I mean, they will be better in the future. They have a lot of young guys that are brewing, so I guess they will be better in the future. But you're right. I mean, the fact that there was absolutely no vertical spacing for them, and that they played very terrible big men. I mean, the southern one was just no. I mean, I would prefer to play Joe Ingles.
Yeah, definitely would prefer to play Joe Ingles over those guys, but still averaged almost 20 points per game. And a lot of it on drives. He didn't take a lot of threes, which is fine. I think he'll average 4 rebounds per game. Some of that is that they just didn't have anybody to even like box out or like anybody to even create space to get boards. And there was a lot on Josh's plate as an offensive player and as a defensive player too. He had, and we talked about this last week, but he had moments where he was good defensively and he did some stuff. Like there was a possession toward the end of the game where he stole the ball from Luka Doncic, as Luka trying to bring up the ball and he took it to the other end for a dunk. And like, there were some cool moments like that. There were some cool, like off ball moments where he looked pretty good, but there's still a ways to go. And as far as like the shot looking a whole lot better, it looks about the same to me. And
me too. Yeah.
I think it's going to be something that takes years, not days, to get better. And it's going to be it's a process. I mean, he was kind of billed as somebody who was going to be like a non-shooter in the NBA. And he's not a non-shooter. He's definitely improved a lot, but it's still going to take some time to get him there. And he knows that. He's voiced that. I think the Thunder understand that. And, but he's improving in other ways too. Like I think just overall control. I think you can see his strength helping him get to the paint a lot better. He's a much better driver to the hoop than he was, because in FIBA it's a lot more physical in the paint and it's a lot harder to navigate as a ball handler in FIBA. And he improved a lot in that area. Yeah. And so he deserves a lot of credit for those things, because I just don't think he was anywhere close to that, at the beginning of last year. So I think this is a really nice springboard for him.
I completely agree with that. I want to see how that strength translates, because it's one thing to put your shoulder onto Toby's chest and move him around, then do it against just a guy like Herbert Jones.
That's fair. Yep.
No, I mean, I'm not saying like Embiid or whoever, but just like a very good defender. Even against Dort. Can you put it? I think that he's stronger, and you can see that, which is exactly what we need. I think that another crucial point of his shooting improvement is the fact that the free throws looks much better. Yeah. Much better. Yeah. And I mean, clearly, if Josh Giddey becomes a 37% standstill shooter, which is still not a guy that you really gravitate on, you can't cheat on him because the motion is quite slow for like a shooter. It's okay for a normal player, but if he's able to generate free throws and to hit them, then you can sustain a guy that is just able to hit standstill threes. Mm-hmm. You really can, especially if you have guys like Chet, guys like Shai and J-Dub. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have a guy that is able to create offense with the ball in his hands and is able to generate free throws and making them, it makes for a guy that you can have on the court at all times. Yeah, the defense will probably cheat on him, but if you leave like 3 feet to Giddey, he's able to create something. Mm-hmm. Especially if the team knows that they have to be in motion in order for Josh to be successful. And that he has other avenues. He can take 2 steps and just hit the floater. I mean, the 3 is clearly important. I'm not saying that it's not important, but it's not conducive for him to be a good player. Mm-hmm. Can he be an All-NBA kind of guy without the 3? I would say probably not. But we're talking
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's hard. Like if he becomes like a Shai-like shooter, mm-hmm. he will be an All-NBA guy. Which, it's OKC doesn't need him to be an All-NBA guy. Would it be great? Sure.
I wouldn't say no to it.
No, me neither. I'm saying,
I'm just
is this the only outcome for Josh? No, like he's a 6
No,
pick in the
I think
draft, and it's already like great what he's doing right now.
yeah. I think the most likely outcome is that he is basically just like one of the best like high level role players in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's probably the most likely outcome.
Which
but
is
also
good.
like he's underrated as a scorer. He shot 61.7% on twos in the tournament with no spacing.
Yeah.
You know, like that's better than Billy Hernan Gomez, 59%. It's better than Shai, 60%. You know, he was really, really good in the tournament and deserves like a lot of credit for doing what he did at that age. And again, if he just had some shooting, I think that it would have made a huge difference. You just put like 2 shooters out there with him.
Yeah.
It would have made all the difference in the world. If Bertans was somehow, Australian.
Hey, Bertans will.
Should we talk about Bertans?
A little bit, yeah. I mean,
let's do it.
He shares some of the issues that Josh has, like the fact that he can be a real sieve. I mean, I was so excited when he hit that 3 against Spain. Then, like 3 seconds later, just completely blanked on a closeout and let Arenas wide open for a 3. So this will happen with Bertans.
Yeah.
But if you play a certain way where he kind of screws up only like 1 possession out of 3, something like that, where he can, where you put him in the situation where he cannot be like too harmful for the majority of the possessions, and you protect him a little bit, which is something that in regular season you can absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
That guy will create space and will hit threes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a guy that is in rhythm, and it's not at the end of the bench, and he's happy where he is, and he's trying to rejuvenating his career, and he has something to prove, I mean, maybe you get a fine year out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, on those nights where you had Lindy Waters out there. I love Lindy, and he's a great story. But Bertans has a completely different level of gravity. I mean, if you have Bertans in a corner, the guy will be there. Will have his eyes always on him. And if you have playmakers like Josh and like Shai, I mean, they like Mitsic, they will hit him. They will hit him for sure for those threes. And if he can hit like 40% of his corner threes, which is for Bertans a very low bar, that is huge. And he's tall.
He's really tall. And the thing that I think will make one of the biggest differences is how deep he likes to shoot. Because he likes to shoot almost like half court. Like he is shooting such deep threes. And if teams feel like they need to at least pay attention to him, and he can space out 2 or 3 feet beyond where people normally space to, that in itself is a game changer.
Do you remember Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson doing that for Harden?
Yes, they would space out so far.
Yeah.
So far. And they would hit them is the thing. Like Bertans will just bomb from so far away. It is almost comical at times to me how far away he's willing to shoot it. But if
that first year in Washington was insane.
Oh,
it was just hitting like just. And he does that. He has these seasons where it's just, come on, dude, where are you? Who are you? And then those years where it's just, oh, okay, he's hitting those. So, I mean, you can get like a 0 year for Bertans, and it doesn't really matter for OKC. But if they get something in between that year in Washington, which was bonkers, and his normal years, I mean, that is a great gap. And the beauty of it is that he can play 15 minutes, 12 minutes, and he will be completely fine. He will just bomb 8 threes in 12 minutes.
Yep.
And he can like break game apart. He's that guy. And when you when you have like multiple shooters to try out in games, like, hey, try as AJ. Oh, no, not your day. Just try Bertans. Okay, that is his game.
Try Lindy, try Bertans. You know, like there's going to be games, like regular season games in January, where like maybe somebody's injured or just guys are just wiped out. And it's like, hey, let's just let Bertans bomb 12 threes in this game and just see if it takes us anywhere.
In his quarter.
Yeah, in his quarter. That's the thing about him, is like he really believes that he probably have an interview similar to like Karl Anthony Towns, where he's like, yeah, I'm the best, tall shooter ever. He shoots with that kind of belief, and he'll shoot off movement. He's not just like somebody who spots up. Like he'll shoot off movement some. He'll run around, but he spaces way out and always has. Likes to space 2 or 3 feet behind the 3-point line, and there's nights where he just gets really hot, and he'll help some, and there will be weeks where he just won't play at all. Both will be true.
Yeah,
for him.
But the beauty of having guys like that is that on a normal night, you can just start your starting unit with Dort. To be clear, I'm not hating. Like, it's just blue Dort, and then you start with your like sub of the bench. And at some point, you can have like a unit where you have Mitsic, you have Isaiah Joe, you have J-Dub, you have Bertans, and you have Chet.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of lineups, I mean, it's not crazy talented on defense, but this is a lineup where if they find chemistry, it's very easy to see lineups like that just being helpful, productive. Like you can have maybe not Isaiah Joe and Kenrich Williams to give a little bit more boost on defense. That lineup will have very intelligent players at all spots, good shooters. Like, and again, if the chemistry hits for lineups like that, even if you don't have Shai, you don't have Giddey, it's easy to see them finding good shots because the floor will be so wide open.
Yeah,
because of guys like Bertans, that again, you can really slow down the development of guys like Usman Jang and take time to really hone their skills. Because like on nights like this, you can have Bertans taking 10 minutes, and the burden on a guy like Jang becomes a little bit less, and maybe he responds better in situations where he knows that he can screw up, and the team can still win big minutes because they have like a lot of good players on the roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is true. I think that there's just really interesting depth on this Thunder team this year that I'm really excited to watch. And I think Bertans is something that people just don't talk about, and that's like fine. Like I don't think there should be like some big hype around Davis Bertans going into this season, but he is going to be an interesting piece. I just think about the end of last season, and maybe Bertans wouldn't have played in the playing games anyways, but like they're playing a two-way guy, like significant minutes in these games. And some of it is that just like some of the younger guys weren't ready to contribute, and that's okay. But there's going to be players. I think Mitsic is going to play. I think Cason Wallace is gonna play minutes, and I think because of what he can do defensively, might knock other guys out of the rotation. I think that's going to happen, and we don't know exactly who's making the roster yet, but we'll find out soon. I mean, we're less than a month away from media day, and that trade that happened with Favors and Teo and all those guys happened pretty close to after training camp started. And so, decisions will get made, within the next month or so, and we'll have preseason basketball in Tulsa. We'll have real basketball soon. So, I mean, it's really exciting. But I mean, the amount of like role players that they've added that I think can play real minutes this season, like I said, Cason and Mitsic are like at the top of the list there as guys that I think are going to like really eat minutes. Like Chet Holmgren, obviously, is somebody else. Like those three, I don't think we quite realize how much those three are going to change the way that rotations look in this next season. Bertans will at times, but I do think that Cason, Mitsic, and Chet are going to be like, oh, like this really is like a different team.
Yeah. Again, for guys like Bertans, I can see a path like the one that Isaiah Joe had. So I can it is possible to me that he starts out, doesn't play for the first 3-4 games, then goes on and he hits casually 4 out of 8 from 3 and say, oh, nice. And then he maybe gains like another game and he like, okay, a 5 out of 9. Oh, nice. And then he starts to be a guy that earns a spot where you can't just let him out because he's too good. like Isaiah Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen. Now, would I bet on that? No. To me, the likeliest outcome is Bertans has very terrible games, good games. He plays roughly 50, and at some point, either they finish the season like that or they move on. I'm saying 50 games for the entire season, no matter for which team. That is the likeliest outcome, which is still okay for OKC. But there is like an opportunity. I think that OKC has proved that they will give him opportunity. And if he's ready for those opportunity and he proves that, hey, I can be a guy for which you play me 80 games and you pay me for next year because I'm actually very good.
Don't count on that, Michele.
I don't count.
Michele.
I don't count. But
even if he's good,
yeah,
I would.
He'll play him 72 or 71, whatever, and then decide on which deal they can bring him in afterwards. But anyway, my point is, I think that if there is a team that can actually give Bertans a real chance to say, okay, you're here and you can provide value here, I think that OKC will give themselves that opportunity because you never know. I mean, again, it's exactly like for Isaiah Joe. I mean, it was almost random, but OKC found something and they deployed that something into real value for the team.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, this season is going to be outrageously fun, I think, and something that I'll keep hammering this away. It's like just like try to enjoy it too, because we're gonna have everything that you could ever want. Fun young players, a team that still has the potential that's above their head, no high expectations for what you're supposed to do, and also potential lottery picks coming, even if it's not your own pick. So
which is insane.
It's all of that wrapped up into one, where just try to enjoy the process of this season, because I think a lot of people would say that 2010 was one of the most fun years of Thunder basketball because they exceeded expectations. All this great stuff was going on. This has a chance to be better than that, honestly. So just prepare yourself to soak in just a wonderfully fun season with brand new seats and a brand new Jumbotron in Oklahoma City with just one of the most fun young teams in the league and potentially a top 10 pick in the draft, which we're going to cover extensively, probably starting very soon. Just because
we need to go sophomore in this draft class.
I know. So
we need to start now. In 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, we could have, more, J-Dub's brother is in this draft and could be in the range. How much fun would that be to have the two brothers?
And something that we also need to be, I listened to Jokic's exit interview, where he said, but just basically told the story of the up and down run that Denver had over the past few years and the fact that they learned through failures. And I think that the last game of the season last year was very important to everyone, that they weren't ready. And maybe next year it will end this way, the same way. Not sure where, maybe in the first round, maybe again in the play-in. But it's important that you can also appreciate how the team is sticking together moment after moment. And I think that the end of last season, where they hit that run where they couldn't get anything, and they somehow put it together, went to the play-in and played a great game against the Pelicans. Played an against Minnesota, which was more ready. It happens. It's fine. Witnessing those kind of moments, those building moments, it's also what next season will be about. Trying to see if Shai, Chad, J-Dub, and Giddey are really a core that meshes together and push through a season with unity. And this is also, I think, the beauty of next season.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a great way to put it. I have created a survey. Me and my good buddy Mike Smeltz at The Athletic created a survey for the Athletic NBA show. So if you've ever listened to the Athletic NBA show, I would really appreciate it if you would take this survey. It's really quick, where you just kind of mark what shows you've listened to, what kind of length you like on a podcast, how many episodes of the Athletic NBA show you listen to during the week. And then we asked for just like general comments about your favorite and least favorite things about the show. If you could take that survey, that would mean a lot to me. I'm trying to just gather as much data as possible as we move into this next season and try to make some changes and make the show better. So help us make the Athletic NBA show better by taking that survey. That would mean a lot to me. So you can find that on my Twitter account. Should be like one of like the first 3 or 4 tweets on my page. So go check that out. And we'll have another podcast for you guys tomorrow. Alex and I will pod after Canada and Slovenia play. And it should be a very interesting Luka versus SGA matchup. Very, very interesting. And I cannot wait to see it. And then we will recap right after that tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday.